What's up, guys? Real estate broker Michael Watkins here again, and today I want to talk to my homeowners who are thinking about selling their home on their own. Consider these 5 key scenarios before you do.
Okay, boy, I'm beating my best, I know. Feeling the part, living my life, dancing, let's make some noise.
So I already know what you're thinking. Here's another real estate broker trying to convince me why I should pay him a commission instead of trying to sell my house on my own. But it's not just about that, guys. You need to consider all of these things before you get into trying to sell your house on your own. I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm sure a lot of you guys are capable, you're smart, you can try to sell your house on your own, but let's be honest. In my experience, in the over 20 years that I've been in real estate privately and as a broker, an angel gets their wings every time a person tries to sell their house on their own and it actually makes it to closing without any issues. So without further ado, let's dive into the number one reason: saving commission, right? That's the number one reason why most homeowners say they don't want to hire an agent. The fees are too high or the commission is too much. Why am I going to pay you a commission when I can sell it on my own? But here's the thing. You usually end up paying a commission anyways in probably 85 or 90% of deals. Even if you don't hire an agent, you're gonna end up paying a commission to a buyer's agent, right? So an agent who brings you a buyer, most for sale by owners or home sellers listing their homes on their own, end up paying at least a 2.5 or 3%, sometimes even more, commission to the buyer's agent, right? So you end up paying a commission anyways. And here's what it leads into, which is number 2, your buyer is represented and you're not. Buyer has an agent looking out for their best interest, negotiating on their behalf, making sure all their T's are crossed and their I's are dotted, and you're on your own. Now, what does it mean if you don't have representation as the home seller in a transaction? Where do I start? First of all, let's begin with the contract. Do you know how to read an addendum to a contract? Do you know how to structure it? Do you know all the kickout clauses in a Florida real estate purchase contract that allows a buyer to get out of the deal, right? If inspection doesn't pass, right? The inspection period, if they find something they don't like. What about the appraisal and the finance section of that contract? Do you understand how to read and interpret all of these things? We do this every single day. So we understand what the processes and procedures are to make sure a transaction goes smoothly in your best interest. Remember, if you're selling your house on your own, chances are 90% of the time, your buyer is going to be represented by a real estate professional. You want to make sure that you have the same leverage. And let's not forget about the legal aspect, right? Contrary to popular belief, a transaction isn't completely over once you sell the property and everyone signs. I've lost count of how many sellers have been sued for a myriad of reasons after they've sold a home, whether it be something they put in the seller's disclosure, right? Oh, by the way, do you know what a seller's disclosure is? Do you have a checklist for that, right? Do you have a checklist for all the legal ramifications of selling a house? For example, what if you didn't disclose that the property was built before 1978? What if you didn't disclose the prior use of a property that someone who's buying the property from you found objectionable? A year and a half later, they're hiring an attorney and you hear you're getting sued. These aren't hypotheticals. None of what I'm saying to you right now is a hypothetical. These are actual scenarios that have happened to people who sold their homes on their own. I could do an entire video just on the fiduciary responsibilities of real estate brokers alone, right? That could be its own separate video. That's the reason we have to be licensed through the state of Florida. We have an obligation and a responsibility to you, our client. We have to carry errors and omissions insurance, right? Guys, they make sure we take care of you guys. Experience matters. Experience matters. Do you know the difference between a pre-qual and a DU approval, right? Which makes sure that buyers don't waste your time, right? You could spend 3-4 weeks or more in a contract with a buyer who isn't qualified to buy your house. And that starts with the first step of making sure that person was qualified to begin with. I've seen so many different scenarios that cost sellers grief that were completely avoidable. There are landmines that you need to sidestep, and if you don't have competent representation, you could step on one of those landmines and cost yourself tens of thousands of dollars. Another thing I want to talk about is staging. I'm going to call this 2A, all right? And I actually did a video about this, guys. I'll put the link somewhere up here, wherever it is if you're watching it on YouTube, where I did a video about some of the things that you want to do to make sure your home looks presentable, is appealing to a buyer if you're listing it on the market. A good example to use is, have you ever been to a model home? Did you pay attention to how that home looked? You want it to look like a pristine model home, you know, not with all of your stuff lying around. If you remember, when you walked into a model home, it looked beautiful, but it looked ready for someone else to move into it. Oh, by the way, this is a big one. Don't be there when your buyers are touring your home. There's a lot of psychological reasoning behind that, right? Because when people are in your house and you're there, they're not comfortable. And that's something that maybe you've never heard before, but if you think about it, or if you remember when you were buying your house, when were you most comfortable? Do you remember going to a house that the seller was in the house? Did you feel comfortable opening all the closets, you know, checking out the AC, you know, going into the bathrooms? You probably didn't. And psychologically, that uncomfortable feeling stays with you when you're looking at a house. So I always tell my sellers, don't be in the house, I'll be there, right? Or if the buyers need more privacy, I'll even step outside and give them some privacy. I know you may be concerned about your valuables or whatever, but listen, if you're selling a house, your valuables should be locked away anyways. They can feel like they're living in the house, or they can imagine what it would feel like for them to be here. If you're there lounging on the couch or watching TV, I've seen that where I've been in homes and you know, the sellers are there watching TV or they're cooking. Don't do that, right? Give your buyers the freedom to check out the house and be comfortable, you know, go for a walk, take the dog outside or something like that. Okay, and number 3 is the home value. Right? And this one sounds simple, right? You're thinking, I'll just go on Zillow, see what homes are selling for on there, and that's how I'll come up with my value. But that is not how you want to come up with a home value. Your home is unique. There are many different factors that influence the value of that home. Whenever possible, get an appraisal of your home because the buyers are going to do that. As a matter of fact, an appraisal is one of the main contingencies on a buyer purchasing your house, right? So you shouldn't be surprised when your appraisal comes back on your house. And it's one of the most commonly overlooked aspects of a real estate transaction. A seller puts their house on the market and they have no idea what the bank is going to come back with the appraisal. You don't want to be surprised there, right? Maybe you don't want to pay for an outright appraisal, but that's why as a broker, we can offer you a broker's price opinion. Financial institutions actually pay us to do this, right? When they take in their assets that are in foreclosure, I've had financial institutions call me up to do what's called a BPO, a broker's price opinion, right? So that's something that we can offer you as our clients, so that way you know within maybe a few $1,000s what that house is actually going to appraise for. Let's say you're selling your house for $450 and the appraisal comes back at $420 and you weren't expecting that, or even $400. So getting the right value and not just going on Zillow or asking your neighbor, you know, what they bought their house for or something like that. You want to get an actual professionally done broker's price opinion or an appraisal. And number 4, I touched on this a little bit earlier, right, with the experience, but I'm gonna take this opportunity to brag a little bit here, guys. As a home seller, selling your house, you're not gonna be able to compete with a brokerage like ours when listing a home for sale. And like I said, I know a lot of you guys are capable, but as a renovator, as an investor for the past 20 years, just the sheer man hours and deals that I've seen is what allows me to automatically pick up on things that you're probably gonna miss. And that's the value that you're getting when you hire a brokerage like Cashback Realty. We mitigate the circumstances that can potentially derail your real estate transaction. I actually did a case study video of one of my previous clients, a buyer, who actually hired an attorney to help her out of a situation, and that attorney wasn't able to help her, and I actually helped her get out of the situation and go on to buy another property. So check it out here, I'm gonna put the link. But folks, what is the peace of mind worth? Knowing you have a professional that has your back, that's gonna get you to the closing table and have your transaction go smoothly. And last but certainly not least is marketing. This is another one of the most commonly overlooked areas that FSBOs, FSBO, that's lingo for sale by owner in the real estate industry, that a lot of for sale by owners overlook. It's the marketing of the property. Here's a common misconception. People think, okay, I can just throw it up on Zillow or Realtor.com or wherever else, or put it on Craigslist, wherever you put your property, and I'm good to go, I'm done. But here's the thing, a lot of those websites aren't geared towards finding you the best buyers, right? What about email lists, right? Do you have an email list that you can send it out to 10, 15, or 20,000 people? Especially if you're selling a high-end home, right? If you're selling a home in the $500,000 or above price range, that is not a house that everyone can purchase, right? So you're appealing to a specific demographic once you get into certain price points for your house. What's your strategy? It cannot be to just throw it up on Zillow and cross your fingers and hope you get a buyer that comes by who's qualified. There has to be a specific strategy, and marketing is a huge part of getting the right buyer for your house, right? Zillow is just basically showing it to everybody and hoping you get a buyer that comes along and buys that house and is qualified, hopefully. That's not a strategy. You want a professional who will market your house to the people who can actually purchase your house. I hope this was helpful to you. I really appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this video with someone who you think might find it helpful. If you found value in it, leave a comment below. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.